Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Bitcoin Trade. And so another just straight chart analysis, and basically I'm going to be focusing on this recent high that's actually just reached the seems like a 25 period average here, almost to 250. So it's higher than this particular high right here. Hit the 25 period average here, and so looking at the MACD, you'll see the momentum changing upwards. How far it'll go up, I don't know. Just looking at this, all I can say is that for the most part, that it is a higher high than this. It's been a lower low. To continue on, it has to go at a higher high than this now, which is around 300. So after it reaches 250, it basically has to go up to 300 and higher than 300. Matter of fact, if it goes up to 350, that's probably a good indication of hopefully a bottoming out and a trend reversal. And so I don't know if anyone's been up to date on what's going on, but it seems like the price has gone so low that some of this cloud mining has basically ceased to exist. So basically, cloud mining has stopped for a while. Mining in general has stopped, and it seems it's becoming unprofitable. So for these larger mining facilities, something I did want to talk about, and I kind of want to bring it up, is that if you ever notice, like, large companies or large organizations, sometimes being the big organization is a disadvantage, because there's so much cost involved in being a large organization that you have to maintain a certain income just to keep operating, versus being a smaller organization or an individual who basically has a very low cost of operating, and sometimes can even just stop operating and still survive, versus a larger organization that if you stopped operating, they would just cease to exist. They continuously need to get funding or get income, and so it would make a lot of sense for some of these organizations to pull the plug. So what does that mean for everyone else? Well, it means that the more, I wouldn't say they're efficient, it just costs a lot less to run a mining rig for a smaller individual than versus a big facility at these lower prices. So I think one of the things that are happening is, I don't know if I would say that mining's a cause of the downward pressure, but you have to consider, like, a real short, it is going to come directly from a miner, especially if they offload onto an exchange. That's probably the purest short that you can short a Bitcoin. everyone else literally has to buy a Bitcoin, and then if they want to short it, they would have to sell it. So really, you're not shorting anything. You're just bringing it back to neutral. Um, so another thing I wanted to address was I had another comment made, and it asked me what's my strategy? Are you going to continue to short? Um, I don't really consider myself shorting Bitcoin because I bought Bitcoin, and if I take it out to the exchange, um, I've probably already traded um, before it even goes to exchange, or if it does go exchange, um, it's bought. If I ever convert it into fiat currency, the electronic fiat currency on the exchange, I would eventually just buy it back. So it's not like I'm shorting, and I think for most part, if you're trading or if you're an investor, you don't really short, because in order to get Bitcoins, you have to buy Bitcoins, and so um, to say that you're shorting is not completely accurate. So the question was, what's my strategy? Well, my strategy has been pretty simple. It's kind of always been the same, but at these lower prices, it's kind of changed a little bit. When they were at higher prices, I tried to make a gain in fiat currency, and the whole point was that I would eventually buy back in at a lower price, or the gains that I make, I would just buy more Bitcoins with it. Now it's at such a lower price per Bitcoin that it's really, really attractive for me to keep my gains in Bitcoin now instead of trying to buy them back, or make my gain in currency, in fiat currency, and then buy more Bitcoins. And so my strategy has been basically to keep my gains in Bitcoin, even though they've been falling down in price. But I'm averaging my gains in Bitcoin going down, so it's not like I've taken a loss at 350 or 300 or 400 or whatever. It's they were made, the gains were made on the way down, so they kind of just averaged out maybe about 250. So it all kind of depends how much you buy at what price point, but I would say on average, I haven't calculated yet, about 250. So um, if you just keep on doing it, just keep on making your gains, it just averages out to whatever it is, but you're not, it's not all at a higher price. So that's kind of my point. Anyways, so some of the strategies I'm doing on how I make that gain is that now I'm gaining more Bitcoins. I'm able to do a lot more now than before, which when I didn't have a lot of Bitcoins, when Bitcoins only bought me like a couple, when the price of Bitcoin so high, I would get less Bitcoin for what I was paying for it. Now I'm paying for the same amount, but I'm getting a lot more Bitcoin. I'm finding that I could do a lot more things, as far as trading, as far as using, as far as payment instruments, just a lot, just a lot more things I'm doing with it than just selling it. And some people would say selling it for a fee, or a commission. So um, it's, but there's only there is a risk, of course, is that as the prices go down, um, of course your gain as far as you know fiat currency value goes down. It's kind of strange, but you have to think of this as the world has turned upside down when you get into Bitcoin trading. Once you go through the looking glass, once you fall down that deep rabbit hole, everything gets inversed. You know, I mentioned this many times, where up is down, down is up, left is right, right is left. Well, once you start really getting into trading into Bitcoin, when I first got into it, I always compared everything as far as Bitcoin to a fiat currency. Well, it's flipped over now. Now I'm comparing fiat currency to a Bitcoin. You know, how many Bitcoins can I get for a fiat currency versus how much my money is going to buy me Bitcoin. So that's a big difference. Now, once you start into that conversion, once you made that conversion, and we are in the time of conversion anyway, so once you get through that conversion stage, and you've actually flipped over, you've, you know, went through and you've come on through the other side of this. Everything is upside down, backwards, and inside out. I mean, it's so strange. I've mentioned this in my previous episodes, and so now, instead of trying to make a gain in fiat currency and hoping to buy more Bitcoins, I realized at these lower prices that it's just way more easier and way faster for me to get Bitcoins by just keeping my gains in Bitcoin. And I don't keep all of it, but I do keep a lot of it. I still make enough in fiat currency to just, you know, pay my bills and stuff like that. But I've noticed that I could do a lot more now by having Bitcoins. I can do so much more. I mean, I can arbitrage so much more. I can do more complicated trades. And I'll give you an example, is a butterfly trade. I don't know if anyone heard of a butterfly trade, where you're taking a short and a long position. Now, typically, when I've done this with other trades, other financial instruments and stuff like that, it never really makes sense to me until I got into Bitcoins. What I like about the butterfly trade, especially when you have a lot of ranging going on, or fluctuating prices that are very rapid, especially at these lower prices, I can take a very small risk and do a butterfly trade. And basically, it all hinges on a couple things. It hinges on the price, and when a buyer or seller comes to you to execute a trade. And so it gets a little complicated, but there's a couple things you got to do. One is basically you've already have to have a committed amount of Bitcoins. In other words, you can't come in here with no Bitcoins and do a butterfly trade. It just doesn't work. You're gonna make nothing if you do make anything, or you're gonna take a loss on the trade. You have to have a committed amount of Bitcoins to do this. So the price, whether it goes up and down, it doesn't matter. The only thing that it does matter, of course, because it depends on which part of the trade you're gonna execute out of and into. So because you're short and long, and the price, depending on where the price fluctuates. So the other component of this butterfly trade is when you need to, and this is the key component, is you need to find a buyer or seller in the butterfly trade, because you've already had positions short and long. So now you need a trade to be executed, and depending on which trade, the short or the long trade, you exit or enter into, depends on the price. So two components to this is you need to find a buyer or seller. Basically, you need someone to execute a trade, and second, where the price is from that trade, because you're already short and long. So all you have to do is exit into or enter into that short or long position that you're already in, if that makes sense. And when I say you're already in, because you already have money and you already have Bitcoins, all you have to do is enter or exit out of that particular trade based on buyer or seller and the fluctuating price. So you're always making a gain somewhere. Um, it's a little bit complicated because you already have to have skin in the game, so to speak. I mentioned before that I made enough gains that I've decided to keep my gains in Bitcoin now. So those gains are all gained Bitcoins, and so I really have no risk in it. I'm just risking my gained gains, if that makes sense, either in US dollars or Bitcoin, because I'm doing a butterfly trade, and so it's taking a short and a long with the spread in the middle, and depending where the price goes is the trade I'm going to be in, exiting out of or entering into the short or the long. I don't know if this makes any sense, but I guess you just have to experience this trade to get a feel for it. And what I like about it is that you'll make a gain either in US dollars or in Bitcoin, depending on the price. And when there is a buyer or seller that's executing a trade with you. Sounds complicated. It is. It is a little complicated, but once you start doing it, or you're able to get into doing it, it makes a lot more sense. But you can't do it without having Bitcoins that you're committed to having. So in other words, that you're committed to holding on to these Bitcoins no matter what the price goes up or the price goes down. You're committed to holding on to them, because those are your gain Bitcoins and they're more over your long term, and so they're part of your, I guess, your stock, or your stock of Bitcoins that you're willing to risk out there. So it becomes not, for me, it becomes a point where I'm risking Bitcoins instead of risking money. Because I've already gained these Bitcoins, or I gain in money. So in reality, I'm not really risking anything. The biggest challenge is starting when you start beginning, because you'll be really risking whatever you bring in. So most of you will be risking money when you come in, and if you haven't already made enough gains on your money to the point where you could just risk your gain money and just go ahead and get into the Bitcoin, it's a tough process. But if you're able to trade and understand and make gains, those gains, you can risk the gains, and really essentially there's no risk for you. And so you're making money on top of the money on top of the money on top of the money. Or I should say on top of the Bitcoins, on top of the Bitcoins, on top of the Bitcoins. And so you can see how you can leverage. And I mentioned leveraging, stay away from leveraging. When I say leveraging, I'm talking about the 5-to-1, 2-to-1, or whatever that the exchanges give to you. The leveraging I'm talking about here in this particular instance is the fact that you can leverage your money or your Bitcoin by risking your gains, and then risking those gains to make more of a gain. And that's what I'm talking about, leveraging. You're able to leverage your money and your Bitcoins by risking your gains, if that makes any sense. So anyways, let's go back to the chart analysis. Here it is. So it's gone higher than the last high, which would be here. I was wondering if it was ever going to go any higher because I saw this kind of start to tweedle down, never becoming higher than this. Eventually it did with a good solid bar. If you see that, it's a good solid bar. It's not anything like this type of solid bar or maybe this type of solid bar. But it is a solid bar, and it's hit up against the average here, this 25 period average, and it did go above it, but it also came back down. There's still good momentum upwards. It may bounce down underneath it and in between these two averages here. If I drew a line, a line would be somewhere around here, and so there is another resistance line that's above 225. So we'll see what happens. It could possibly move up. This is a good sign. It just has to now keep that momentum going back up, reach around 300 and go over 300. If it pulls back after going 300, that's still okay. I would expect that. A lot of people are going to be taking their profits from that. It's a question of, will it bounce after pulling back from the 300? Will it bounce back to maybe 250 again and then shoot up one more time, maybe back to around 350? And so that'll be something I'm going to be watching out for. Will it happen? I don't know. It's hard to say, but I would think that would need to happen to show that this number here in particular, 166, is the bottom. And again, I mentioned because of the miners, a lot of people are starting to pull the plug on their operation, and if that means less bitcoins to be mined or being dumped out onto the exchanges, etc., more independent miners, more I guess you can call them mom and pop. What I mean by that, I'm talking about just individual small organizations, small operations going back into mining. I feel like, if anything, those particular individuals or an organization, the smaller individuals, organizations, are more likely to hold onto their bitcoins than the larger organizations, because larger organizations, you have to maintain a certain income, cash flow to keep operating, versus a very individual or small organization may not require that much capital or income, cash flow to keep it operating. They can actually even stop, just pull the plug and just stop mining altogether. If they have bitcoins, they can start trading bitcoins, and they can start gaining in bitcoins through trading after they've mined enough bitcoins that they want to mine. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I personally feel, and I'm biased, that I'm very long on Bitcoin. Even though the price has gone down so much, I'm still long on it because, man, I'm able to get a lot more Bitcoins for my money now. And so for me, I'm actually glad it came down in price, because if it didn't, it'd be harder for me to get more Bitcoins for the price at a higher price. Now that it's at a lower price, it was very easy. $60 got you pretty much a quarter of a Bitcoin. $60 can still get you almost a quarter of a Bitcoin, but it's so much easier to get a quarter of a Bitcoin for $60 than it is when it was at $1,000 for $60. Would get you like 0.06 Bitcoins or something like that. It wouldn't get you anything. How many trades would I have to do just to get one whole Bitcoin? Now I only do like 3 or 4 trades, and I got a whole Bitcoin with me that I've gained. So it's not that bad. It's actually pretty easy. And so I can't, I look forward to the day that it rises. So anyways, that's my chart analysis. Other than that, I don't know what else is gonna happen. There is a possible downside scenario, of course. That there is a resistance here. There's a longer resistance coming up here. If you've seen my previous episodes, uh, definitely at 300 here, but it could hit up to 300 and then continue on its downward trend. Um, but by then, I mean, I think we would all know a good idea of how if it's going to break out of this downward trend or if it's going to continue. The fact that the price is moving up tells me that a lot has been oversold. It's just ranging and now it's pushing up. I think a lot to do with um, a lot of mining facilities are starting to just pull out, and it leaves a lot of door opens for the smaller organization who are more, I think, more inclined to hold on to their Bitcoin and trade their Bitcoin to gain more Bitcoin versus these larger mining facilities who are probably aren't trading their Bitcoin in a way that they're making gains on them, to absorb or to get more gain into a Bitcoin. So if you're like me and everything's flipped over for you, you've basically fallen through to the other side of the mirror and into the rabbit hole. Um, the world is upside down. I mean, you're in it for the Bitcoins and not really for the money. This is the perfect time for you, if you're like me, gaining in Bitcoins. Because it's really, really easy to do it right now. I guess you can say the difficulty rate has decreased. Now, it's kind of interesting, but if the price goes down, yeah, I am a miner in the physical world, so what I do is, I trade for my Bitcoins to make new Bitcoins. So you can imagine that as the price goes down, for a real world physical miner, that equates to a lower difficulty in gaining Bitcoins. And when the price goes high, it is a higher difficulty in gaining Bitcoins. Ironically, but it's a much easier, the difficulty of gaining money is lower. So there is some inverse relationship to how easy it is to gain in a fiat currency versus a Bitcoin based on its price. It's an inverse relationship. The higher the price, the easier to gain in fiat currency. The lower the price of Bitcoin, the easier it is to gain in Bitcoin. So it just counteracts each other. So eventually the volatility will, over time, and of course, if you look at how Bitcoin's set up, over time it just will literally flat line. And that's going to be due to amount of Bitcoins that are going to be coming into existence, and probably price stabilization will also be will take an effect, because by then it'll get to a happy medium stable range where you won't quite see the fluctuations in percentage like you do now. So anyways, I think that I talked long enough. Hopefully this gives you a good idea. I hope I answered the question on what's my strategy now. Am I continuing to short Bitcoins? I've never shorted Bitcoins. If I ever did sell Bitcoins, it was the sole purpose and sole reason to buy more Bitcoins. If I made a gain in US dollars, or now which I'm doing is making a gain in Bitcoins, the whole purpose was to get more Bitcoins. And ironically, it had to take the price of Bitcoins to go down far enough for me to finally gain enough Bitcoins where I can now perform a lot of things, a lot of trading, complex and simple trading techniques that really allows me to do a lot more than what I used to do. And I have a feeling that as time goes on, I'm gonna be doing like some crazy things with Bitcoin. so crazy that, I mean, people aren't going to believe it. You're all not going to believe it. And you never will, because you'll never know what exactly I'm doing or what I've done. You know, it's amazing. You know, and I'm gonna have to bring back the whole idea of co-creating and becoming a creator, and learning what it means to be the creator. And you know, uh, when I first started, it was, I'm co-creating. And once you start co-creating with the creator, you become one with the creator. And once you become one with the creator, you become the creator. And once you start understanding that, what it means to co-create with the creator, becoming one with the creator, becoming the creator, you realize that you can do this not only in a virtual reality, but you could do it in the physical world as well. And you can make it real. And not only can you make it real, but you can actually create. You can make anew everything and anything that you want to do. And the limit is only the limit you put onto yourself. So what I'm saying is, literally, there is no limit to what you can do. There is no limit to what you can create. There is no limit to what you can co-create. There's no limit at all. It's how far do you believe in what you want to do? It really is. And you know, there's nothing stopping you except you. And although there may be some entities out there and forces that are going to oppose you, and there will be, really there's nothing stopping you except you. The only limit is the limit that you place on yourself. But once you realize, man, there is no limit, I mean, you can take this all the way, far, as far as you want to go, all the way. And you know, that's what I want to do. I don't want to just say, well, I tried. And for me to say I just tried is like saying, well, I kind of did it, but I never succeeded. I did it, but I never succeeded in anything. That's what it feels like when someone tells me that they tried to do it. And of course, you know, not everyone's perfect or anything, but I do think there is a difference between someone who believes that it can be done and someone who just chooses to believe, not to believe that it can't be done, or not believes in not believing that it can be done, one or the other, something like that. Anyways, I guess I talked long enough. Anyways, feel free to comment, like, dislike, even do a video response. Until next time, stay tuned, and bye now.